There's a problem with smartphone reviews in 2019. I think we need to talk about it. Hey there, friends on YouTube. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back again. I really do appreciate it every time you do that. I really do. Let's talk about this thing. I mean, I've been watching and making smartphone reviews for a pretty long time at this point. Early on in smartphone time, there were plenty of differences, both in features and quality, that were ample fodder for reviewers to dig into. There also weren't nearly as many smartphones available. You had your big players, your Apples, your Samsungs, your HTCs, Motorola, Nokia. They were all putting out like a few phones. Really, there weren't a ton of phones like there are today. Back in the old days, let's say 3 to 5 years ago, phone reviewers could pretty easily differentiate what phone to get by comparing one phone's deficiencies to another. Sometime around 2015, Marques Brownlee, otherwise known as MKBHD, came up with what he called the 5 pillars of a great smartphone. Those 5 pillars were build, battery, camera, performance, display. Now, not necessarily in that order, I guess, but these days there aren't too many phones out there, on the flagship level at least, that fall down in any one of those categories. Back in those days, though, almost every phone was bound to fall down in one of those respects. So if one of those deficiencies was a deal breaker for you, scratch that off your list, move on to the next phone. But here with the 2018, 2019 phones, it's rare to find a phone that fails massively on one of those scales. I mean, the Pixel 2 XL with the screen and the blue shift, yes, that's recent enough that we can call it recent. But, otherwise, most phones are firing on all cylinders when it comes to these 5 basic things within a small margin of error. So, how do we judge smartphones in 2019? Well, right now, we pretty much judge them exactly the way that we judged them before. But the reality is they're mostly all great performers running the same hardware with pretty much the same screens. They all have great displays. They all have great battery life. It's improved to the point where the most recent phones that we've had over the past couple of years, they're to the point where I can't think of a current phone I wouldn't call a all-day performer. So where does this leave the 2019 smartphone reviewer? There's really not much to talk about when nearly every phone is the same. A phone review wouldn't be very interesting if we just got in front of the camera and said, yeah, this is another good one. It comes in different colors this year. That one has more RAM, but you don't really need all that RAM. And that one has more storage, but you don't really need a ton of storage this day and age. Brief aside, if you're not backing your stuff up in the cloud, then your stuff doesn't exist. Your phone is not a safe place to keep your important stuff. I swear, the next time I hear somebody in a review say daily driver or feels good in the hand or premium build quality, the aforementioned all-day performer, I am going to lose my mind. Can we please stop? The S10 phones this year are a great example of a company basically taking the same phone that they've been making over the past 3 or 4 years and improving it just enough to be interesting. The iPhone failed to do this in 2018. They made a bigger, more expensive version of the phone they made the year before and a cheaper, less feature-rich version of their phone that came in different colors. That's really it. No matter how you slice it, there's not much to get excited about there. So, what do you say about an iPhone? These days, if you buy a modern flagship phone, you're getting something really good. Maybe it's slightly better or worse than another flagship phone in this or that, the other thing. But again, really, there's not much to differentiate one from the other. In recent times, cameras are where most reviewers seem to focus a lot of their effort in differentiating one phone from another, to the detriment of some really great phones. I mean, for example, the Razer Phone 2 is a near-perfect smartphone in a lot of ways. Not just as a gaming phone, I don't know why, but just as a phone. Now, I'm only talking as a phone because I don't play very many games. When MKBHD came out and said good things about the Razer Phone 1, but then said really bad things about the camera, that was pretty much the end of that phone. The Razer Phone 2 came out, the camera was better, but the book had kind of already been written on the Razer phone, and as such, there's a really pretty good phone on the market that nobody bought. Maybe it was because it looked different than other phones. It didn't have a notch or a hole punch. It doesn't feel like a wet bar of soap when holding it. It didn't have an OLED screen. But the 120 Hz LED screen on the Razer Phone 2 is one of the best screens I've ever seen on a phone. But mainly everybody talked about the camera. Look, I'm going to level with you. There is nothing less interesting than comparing the iPhone versus the Pixel versus whatever else in a camera shootout. Yes, smartphone cameras are great. Some smartphone cameras are maybe better than others within a certain margin of error. The capability of smartphone cameras is mind-boggling when you stop to think about it. But for most people who own one phone and won't be comparing it to 3 others, the camera quality of pretty much all the phones out there has reached a level of effing fantastic. I think that's actually a new level of camera quality, effing fantastic. So, tech reviewers, phone reviewers, can we move on from the navel-gazing over the cameras on our smartphones? There's a certain point where the skill of the person taking the photo matters more than whether or not they have the best camera in their phone, and we should probably be encouraging people to develop their camera skills instead of helping them believe the magical camera on the Pixel will somehow make their memories so much more meaningful and make their photos so much better. If they don't know how to do it, it's still going to look like crap. I'm not saying all reviewers overdo this camera thing, but let's think of it this way. It's time to start looking at phones and reviews for what makes them different rather than what makes them the same. In 2019, price may be the most important factor here. Gone are the days when a phone's deficiencies should be the deciding factor on whether or not it's worth purchasing. We've moved into another period of development. Now we can look at phones and talk about who they're for and why, as opposed to which phone is better because of a bunch of tired metrics and Geekbench scores and speed tests that don't really test anything because they're not scientific. All the tired metrics. Yes, there are some phone reviewers that do great work. They differentiate themselves from the huddled masses yearning to get views. But sadly, folks like Mr. Mobile, Flossie Carter, MKBHD, Your Average Consumer, iJustine, Jonathan Morrison, they are more the exception than the rule. There are plenty of imitators and not too many innovators out there. It's time to rethink how we talk about smartphones in reviews. It's time for every reviewer to try harder, to have their own angle, their own thoughts on why they like a phone or not, and stop watching other people's videos and parroting back the same stuff that the big kids say. Here's a challenge for you. Pick a phone, any phone, pick a phone, watch 5 reviews from 5 different reviewers, and write down the exact phrases you hear in 2 or more of those videos. Will you be surprised to find that there are a lot of them? Hey, thanks so much for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. If this was your first time here and you want to come back again and see more Painfully Honest Tech, then you can hit the like and subscribe button and all those kinds of things. If you have been here before and you're a member of the Wizard Squad, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Again, my name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Ow, I hurt myself. I really did. I hit fists. Until the next time, I'm out.